Blaise Pascal was born on June 19, 1623, in a city called Clermont-Ferrand in central France. He came from a family that valued education and learning. His father, Étienne Pascal, was a lawyer, but he was also a man of science. Étienne believed that knowledge was important, and he wanted his children to receive the best education possible. From a young age, Blaise showed signs of being very clever and curious. His father moved the family to Paris when Blaise was just 12 years old. This was an important move because Paris was the center of science and learning in France at that time. In Paris, Blaise began to study mathematics, which would become his passion. He was fascinated by numbers and how they worked. Blaise had a deep interest in understanding the world around him. He was so dedicated to learning that he taught himself many advanced ideas in mathematics, even though he was very young. By the time he was 16 years old, he had already written his first important paper on geometry. This was a huge achievement because most mathematicians did not accomplish such things until much later in their lives. The paper explained new ideas about conic sections, which are curves like circles, ellipses, and parabolas. Blaise's work impressed many famous mathematicians, and he quickly became known for his talents. One of Blaise's most famous discoveries in mathematics was his work on probability theory. He came up with new ideas that helped people make better decisions in uncertain situations. His work in probability was inspired by conversations he had with another famous mathematician named Pierre de Fermat. Together, they worked on solving problems related to gambling, where players needed to know the odds of winning or losing. Their collaboration led to the development of modern probability theory. Today, we use this theory in many areas of life, such as in business, insurance, and even sports. In addition to mathematics, Blaise Pascal was very interested in science, especially physics. One of his major contributions to science was his discovery of how air pressure works. He found that air, like liquids, has weight and it creates pressure. This was a big breakthrough. Blaise Pascal showed that air pressure is stronger at lower points on Earth and weaker at higher points. This discovery helped explain why people feel different when they travel to higher places, such as the mountains. It also led to the development of new machines and tools, like the barometer, which is used to measure air pressure. Blaise Pascal's work on air pressure was so important that we now use the unit of pressure, called the Pascal, in his honor. Another of Blaise Pascal's important achievements in physics was his work with fluids. He studied how liquids and gases behave, especially when they are under pressure. This study of fluids led to the creation of many important inventions, such as the hydraulic press. The hydraulic press uses the force of liquids to lift heavy objects. This invention was important in the development of many industrial machines. Pascal's studies on fluids also contributed to our understanding of how pumps and engines work, which has had a big impact on technology. When Blaise Pascal was 18 years old, he invented the first mechanical calculator. This was a machine that could perform basic arithmetic operations like addition and subtraction. It was a very useful invention at the time because many people, especially merchants and bankers, needed to do complex calculations. However, the machine had some problems. It was difficult to use, and it could not perform multiplication or division. Despite these issues, Blaise's invention was groundbreaking. It was one of the first steps toward creating machines that could do math automatically, which is something we take for granted today. Even though Blaise was very focused on mathematics and science, he did not forget about religion. As he grew older, he became more interested in the meaning of life and the role of faith. Blaise believed that science and religion were not in conflict with each other. He thought that science could help people understand the natural world, but religion could help them understand their purpose and the meaning of life. This view was important to Blaise, and he believed that both science and religion could help people become better and wiser. In the last years of his life, Blaise Pascal focused a lot on writing about philosophy and religion. He wrote a famous book called Pensées, Thoughts, which contains his reflections on human nature, faith, and the search for truth. In this book, Blaise argued that humans are weak and imperfect, but that faith in God can give them strength. He also explained that there are limits to human reason, and that sometimes we must rely on faith to understand things that cannot be explained by science alone. Blaise's ideas in Pensées influenced many philosophers and thinkers who came after him, and his book is still read by people today. Despite his many successes, Blaise Pascal's life was short. He died on August 19, 1662, at the age of 39. It was a sad event, as Blaise had made so many important contributions to mathematics, science, and philosophy. His early death meant that he could not accomplish all the things he had hoped to do. However, even in his short life, Blaise Pascal made a lasting impact on the world. His discoveries in mathematics and science laid the foundation for many advances that would come after him. His work on probability theory, air pressure, and fluid mechanics continued to influence the fields of science and engineering. One of Blaise Pascal's most lasting contributions was his ability to combine mathematics and science with philosophy and religion. He showed that it was possible to be a deep thinker in both the physical and spiritual worlds. He believed that the search for truth was important in every area of life, whether in mathematics, science, or faith. Blaise Pascal's life and work remind us that we should always be curious, always ask questions, and always seek to understand the world around us. Today, we still use many of Blaise Pascal's discoveries in our daily lives. For example, the Pascal is a unit of pressure that is used by scientists and engineers. We also continue to study his ideas about probability, which are used in many fields like economics, finance, and even games of chance. His work with fluid mechanics helped in the development of many machines, such as pumps and hydraulic systems. Even his invention of the mechanical calculator was an early step in the development of modern computers. Blaise Pascal's life shows that even though someone may have a short time on Earth, they can make a huge impact. His work continues to influence the way we think about science, mathematics, and philosophy. Even today, we look to Blaise Pascal as an example of how curiosity, creativity, and a love of learning can help a person make a real difference in the world. Even though Blaise lived more than 350 years ago, his ideas are still very much alive and relevant today. Blaise Pascal's story is not just about his achievements in mathematics and science. It is also a story of how a person can bring together different ideas and ways of thinking. Blaise was not only a mathematician and scientist, but also a philosopher and a deeply religious person. His life teaches us that knowledge and wisdom come from many places, and the search for understanding is a journey that lasts a lifetime. Through his example, Blaise Pascal has shown us that the pursuit of knowledge and truth can change the world for the better, and that every discovery, no matter how small, can have a big impact on the future.